All right, we are back. He's John. I'm Ryan. At least last time I checked.
There we go.
Another edition. Felt good, eh? The stretch.
Bang! Because I'm left-handed,
Good
I
to
have
see
to
you.
go across the body. That's the whole thing.
I've known you forever. I did not know you were left-handed. That explains everything.
Well,
I love left-handed people. I'm
well,
just
tech
saying.
and
I had
tech
no idea.
technically, the deal is that I'm ambidextrous. Uh,
I'm
throw
like you.
throw
Yeah.
left-handed.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball, swing a bat left-handed. Golf is swing a golf club left-handed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in tennis, they call this a two-handed right-hand backhand. When you
Right.
seriously, I mean, you grab a baseball bat, left
Right.
hand, you're doing it like this.
Oh,
In
I see.
tennis, however,
Yeah.
this is a two-hand right-hand backhand. Serve and overhead are left-handed. Ground strokes are baseball bat left-handed swing. Kick left-footed.
I'm
Uh,
just writing these down. Hold on.
yeah. Well, and the thing was, and I started out, like in elementary school, when you're
Yeah.
writing left-handed and everything, I
Yeah.
got N's in handwriting, needs improvement. And so my second grade teacher pulled my mom and my grandparents into a parent-teacher conference and said he needs to change hands. So, starting in second grade, changed hands to right-handed. To stay away
Interesting.
from lectures in college, I
Mm-hmm.
learned how to write left-handed. So if I want to do something to write it, I'll write it left-handed. If I want to write it quickly, I'll write it right-handed. So that's just how weird it is. No surprise there, I know.
The youth of today, they don't write anything, right? It's all computer, and they miss out on cursive and all that stuff. Anyway, I'm kind of like you. I bat left-handed, golf left-handed, but I throw right and all that type of stuff. So
Weird
anyway, I
all.
didn't know that about you. So
Yeah.
north south, here we go. Fired up network. Always appreciate the listen and appreciate the watch. Shall we begin with the NFL? Did you happen to see what happened?
I've heard of this NFL of which you speak. So
I
uh,
mean,
God
I
bless the kickers, brother. That's all I got.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, Saturday was nuts. And then you thought, well, can the Chiefs and Bills top that on Sunday? Can the Bucks and Rams top that on Sunday? Well, the answer was yes. In the
Yes.
early game, we can dissect that and then go into arguably, well, in my book, one of the games of the year and probably the game of the year and one of the best games ever, I think,
Incredible.
in National Football League history. Thanks, Jim. But Tampa Bay and the Rams, shades, John, of when Tampa was down 28-3 against Matt Ryan and the Falcons in the Super
Oh,
Bowl.
you mean the Patriots? Yeah, Patriots.
So yeah, the Patriots, right? Tom Brady down 28-3,
Yeah.
and then they come back. That was the
Yeah,
discussion point.
that narrative didn't make its way around Atlanta. That
No,
never happened. It was so
no,
27-3, 28-3. People in Atlanta weren't hearing that at all,
no. I
especially when
know.
it was announced on television.
I
Hey, well,
know.
Tom Brady was what a surprise. Let's just recycle that narrative.
What a game. And I give a lot of credit to the Rams because they were trying every way to lose the game.
Yeah.
And I give a ton of credit to Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford this season for me has just picked it up. I'm going to put him in the elite echelon of quarterbacks in the NFL. And this was even before what he did on Sunday against the Bucks. I just think he's got the confidence. He's a good team, very good team around him. I get it. He has the confidence and what he's doing now, and we'll dive into KC in a second with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
But it's the new era of quarterback. It's not just step back in the pocket like Tom Brady still does. It's step back in the pocket. If you can't see something, you scramble. And if you have to flick it or underhand it or do a twirl or do a backflip, you find a way to get the pass off.
Or if you're
Very nice.
Josh Allen, you just duck your head and go
And just go
quarterback
for it. Yeah.
It's like trying
Anyway.
to tackle an 18-wheeler on the QEW with Josh
No, I
Allen.
know. Yeah, no, I know. What a
But
game.
you look at Matthew Stafford and all of those years that he was in Detroit, and it was 7-9, 8-8, maybe a playoff game here and there. But you surround him with weapons, and there was a reason that Jared Goff was traded for Matthew Stafford. And now, and I think also when you lose a receiver and you bring in an Odell Beckham Jr., I think that what you get to do there is you get to take some of the heat off of him.
Right.
And you give him the receiver that he needed in a clutch situation when you don't have folks because of injury. And I think that, if you've got to rely on the passing game and Matthew Stafford and hope that the running game can be managed just enough to give a bit of a breather, then that's what you've gotten from the Rams. But, the whole kicking game, Matt Gay, you, sir, I give you a lot of credit.
Oh, yeah. Agreed. Agreed. And the kickers were the ones, as you said off the top of this, the ones that deserve a ton of credit. So now the narrative becomes,
Yeah.
well, at least for Tampa and Tom Brady, is he going to retire? Is he going to hang it up? He has a show with Jim Gray, and they do a show on Sirius XM.
That they do.
Every Monday, they get together. And Jim, of course, who has talked to pretty much every known athlete and personality in the world.
Take my talents to South Beach.
One of the questions, that's true. One of the questions, I remember when he interviewed, you remember my no segue in this at all.
This track brought to you by.
Yeah, hold on. Back it up, reverse. When Mike Tyson bit Evander Holyfield.
Yes, right? I remember that because I was in television news in Evander's hometown when that happened, Ryan.
The only person that he granted the interview to was Jim Gray. And I spoke to Jim Gray last year at some point. And he told me that he was in a scrum outside of Mike Tyson's locker room. And everybody wanted to talk to Mike Tyson. So they were chatting with, whoever else. But everyone wanted to talk to Mike. Mike said, I'm only going to talk to Jim. And I'm only going to talk to Jim if everyone else leaves and I talk to Jim.
Yeah.
And so everyone left. Jim Gray is left waiting for Mike Tyson, who just bit someone's ear, comes out, and the respect factor. And Jim's like, why did you do it? And, I forget what he said, but it's just the respect factor that Jim has and Mike Tyson has for Jim Gray. Anyway, complete, not really much to do with what we were chatting about, but
bring it back. There we go, brother.
So listen, Tom Brady, yes, no? Do you think he's going to call it quits?
He's got one more year left on the deal. I think he comes back for one more because that someone like Tom Brady doesn't like to come back to unfinished business.
Right.
And I think that the only thing that will make Tom Brady happy is going out a winner.
Yep.
And I think that you're going to have the same crew back for one more time. You might have a couple of pieces here and there. And Tampa Bay might have a salary cap situation, kind of like the New Orleans Saints do right now after next season. But I think this is all the chips in. It's the last year of a 2-year, $50 million U.S. contract.
Yeah.
You're chasing after it, and then you figure out what's going to happen from there. I think at 45, if there's anything left for Tom Brady, if he goes out a champ in Super Bowl LVII, the Roman numeral Classic 57, so that might be it. I think it's one more year.
You mentioned the Saints, Sean Payton on as head coach, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Possibly Loomis, their general manager too.
Yeah.
And you get into the whole discussion about where they are. They are a salary cap dumpster fire right now. They are so far over the cap.
Yeah.
They've circled back around for lap number 2 for the salary cap figure. It's 38 million over. And you've created this situation when you signed Drew Brees to that final contract. Then you sign Taysom Hill to a contract in behind Drew Brees, so you don't lose Taysom Hill. And then you lose Taysom Hill to, I think it was concussion protocol for a couple of weeks this season. Then you bring in Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston gets injured. Then you've got Trevor Siemian, and you've got Ian Book. And I think the only person that wasn't quarterback for the New Orleans Saints this past year was Archie Manning. So, but it does not surprise me that when you have a team that has salary cap issues, and you honestly could next year in the NFC, you could have a division in the dirty where no team finishes 500 or above.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could. And that's we've seen some years in the last few where teams finish just above 500 and they're winning the division, which makes no sense. If you can't get a nice record in your division. Anyway, you shouldn't get to the postseason.
And then the
but that's just what happens.
Since Sean Payton is stepping away,
there's
been discussions that he takes over in the booth at FOX if Troy Aikman steps aside. But that after 1 year, Sean Payton will sit there and try and find the team that's going to have the hot quarterback coming into the draft, and he'll take that gig. Yeah. So, I don't know really the level of trust anybody should have in Sean Payton unless he turns into one of those analyst roles and he's not in the booth, but he turns into one of those studio analysts sitting at a table. Yeah. That might work for him, and then it's easier for him to hop out and get back into coaching. But no, who wants to take the Saints job with all the financial headaches that they have right now? That's the biggest question for me.
No, not I. Not I. Speaking of head coaches, Bill's head coach said that it was a gut-wrenching loss,
Yes.
and it was.
Uh-huh. How many people do you know in Western New York and in the Golden Horseshoe that are fans of the Bills?
Quite a bit, because that is the closest NFL team relative to the GTA. So quite a bit, and they were devastated.
Oh,
Devastated.
there's a friend of mine who said it's worse than wide right. It's worse than no goal.
Scotty Norwood. Oh boy.
And it's worse than no goal.
Right.
The goal
against
you got the Brett Hull goal.
Dallas. That's right. That's right.
They said worse than that.
I think it is. I think it is, John.
And this is, I mean, to have it. Why are you leaving the middle of the field wide open with 13 seconds to go with Travis Kelce flexed as an X receiver?
Yeah.
Why? Why, Jerry? Why?
It's why did Dak Prescott make that run when Dallas was playing San Francisco? Questions. Kansas City, you mentioned Kelce, dynamite. Patrick Mahomes, dynamite.
Heard of him.
Tyreek Hill, I think the fastest guy on 2 feet in the NFL.
Coffee High School, Douglas, Georgia, state 100 and 200 meter champion high school. Also, Jarek McKinnon from Sprayberry High School here in the Atlanta area. Yeah. Also a part of it, too. Did great work at Georgia Southern, was great with the 49ers. Now he's a part of the integral running attack, with Kansas City as well after being in San Francisco. Mecole Hardman, same thing, 100, 200, 4x100 meter relay champion, Elbert County High School, Elberton, Georgia. There's your 3 connections to the south portion of the show.
It's about the speed. And when he took that pass from Mahomes.
And did you see him completely deuce the linebacker on the way by? He hits 4th gear and he's at about the 10-yard line and he turns to him and he just flashes you. Goes,
see ya. Yeah. Gutsy. By the way, I saw this stat. 90% of all TVs in the Kansas City market, I think it was close to 9 o'clock local time, were tuned into that game. So 90% of everyone had a TV, was watching that football game. Here's my beef.
CBS punched to 51, but go ahead.
Yeah. I didn't like how it ended.
Oh, yeah. The overtime rule? I know, obviously.
I don't like it. You know me with
got to fit, but I mean, it goes back to the old NFL rules. It's sudden death overtime. And I know, and I get it. And I think that really, but the thing is that you also run the risk of Penn State and Maryland where you go 9 overtimes.
But it wouldn't happen. You know how I feel about overtimes in soccer? I have this strange.
So you want to play 11? No. 11 on 10 in the NFL?
No, this has nothing to do with that. All this has to do with is that was a heck of a game. We were robbed by seeing what the Bills could do if they had one shot. That's my whole point. If it was a 12-12 game going to overtime, doesn't matter. That had everything. And I think Buffalo deserved, I know they lost and they blew the lead late, totally. They deserved a shot, not just for themselves, but for the fans. Because what we were watching, John, we may see a football game like that again. Yeah. We may not. The fact that we were all able to see something like that, I think is so significant to sports history. And the NFL, they rake in the money, TV contract. They're not hurting. But I just feel that if you adjust the rule and give each team a chance. Yeah. And say, for example, you adjust the rule and you give each team one shot, the first shot, and say we're tied. So say Buffalo tied it up and we kept going at 40 plus whatever it was.
Well, now the thing is, do you do it at the 50? Do you just start possession at 50 and give it a half a field? Do you treat it like an actual drive? Since Kansas City scored on a drive, is it a kickoff? And then if it's a 4 and out, you're done. So basically Buffalo has to match by going the length of the field. How do you do it?
I think you have to do that. I think you should stick with what has you in the 4 quarters and give each one a shot. It's like the NHL. You go down to 3-on-3. It's exciting. Totally understand that. But I miss overtime, 5-on-5. You do that in the playoffs. It's exciting. But with the NFL, give them a chance. If you kick off, have the kickoff after you go up in overtime. Yeah. If Buffalo came back and ran it back to the 30 or the 35 to 40.
Or the 45 or the 50,
or the 50. Give them a chance. Okay. They have 4 downs. That's what I think. And then maybe, I'm just throwing this out, maybe if you give each one a shot,
Yeah.
and if they make it great, you continue, but then you take away that shot. So then it's the first one to score after that. So if it was tied at whatever, then KC gets their chance. If they don't score, then Buffalo gets a chance. If they score, it's done. So you don't go back and forth after one.
Okay, so after one, you treat it like a normal drive. If you go to length of the field, whatever the result is, it is, and then you fix it from there. And by the way, Harrison Butker, the Westminster School kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. So there you go.
A hotbed. It's a hotbed, John. You're
Number
living in a
three
hotbed.
state in the country for high school football recruits heading to the next level, brother.
Oh, love it.
Uh-huh.
That was exciting. So we'll see what happens coming up in the conference championships. Going to be fun. Hopefully, we'll see just as exciting games as we did this past weekend.
The Rams are begging their fans to come and get the tickets at SoFi because they know that the Niners fans will come and absolutely pack the place.
Do you have an issue with that?
No, it's a you problem. If you aren't motivated enough, to go and get tickets. For a conference championship game, that's a you problem if it's louder than it should be if you're fans.
You have a problem. And the opposing team should not suffer with their fan base because of you. So I agree.
I mean, in other sports, you have the notion where there's only a certain percentage of tickets available to the away fans. If you were confident enough in your fan base, then something like that could be in place, but you can't really do that if you're the National Football League. Other sports do. But that's, for me, since it's wide open, secondary market being what it is and all that kind of stuff and how much it makes for the Shield, I completely understand if folks want to pay top dollar to get in the building and sport their own colors. If you don't take the initiative to make sure that those fans are blocked out, that's on you.
Yeah, shame on you. I agree. So we'll see. We'll chat about this, of course, next week on the next edition of North South. Three other things I want to get to. I don't know what you have on the list, but let's do three. Hockey, the Montreal Canadiens.
I've heard of them.
Okay, next, let's go tennis. No, I'm just kidding. What do you say? You and I have talked about this. They hired a new GM who had to be basically. They begged him. They convinced him with I don't know what to let him take over the role.
Wouldn't surprise me since he's got ties to an agent that you saw a preponderance of players attached to that agency in the past to be heading in that direction.
Yeah. What do you do?
Take the number one pick and start over. All right. So now you.
Okay. So what do you do? What do you do with Carey Price then? If you're taking the number one pick,
gotta go.
He has to go. What about Brendan Gallagher? What about, I don't know, some of the young ones you keep, but some of the older ones, they're not going to be part of this. So do you think you just need to, rebuild the entire team and start afresh next year? Because that's going to put them back, John, a bunch of steps.
Okay, so let's see. As I'm sitting here looking at our friends at Puckpedia, puckpedia.com, for those of you that like to check your salary cap space.
You got to watch how you say that too, right?
Yes, exactly right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Projected cap hit 94.3, so that puts you at cap space at basically minus 13 million right now. Your long-term injury pool is at $18 million in long-term injury that you're getting relief for. So your first line right now, it's Tyler Toffoli at 4.25, Lehkonen at 2.3, Suzuki in the middle at under $1 million. Second line's at 6. Third line, this is offense. This is in defense. Third line's at 7. Your fourth line, 4. It's 3 guys that are under $1 million. So your first defensive pairing, Chiarot and Savard both make 3.5. Kulak and Petrie. Petrie's making 6.25 right now.
Yeah.
And then your third pairing is Romanoff and Weiderman. They make 1.6 total. Same with Primo and McNiven and Ned at 1.6. So there's a lot that you want to sit there and it's like, okay, where can we jettison some folks? Brendan Gallagher, $6.5 million through 25-26, and he's in the prime of his career. So that's another 4 years after this. So you're looking 34 at the end of his deal. Josh Anderson making 5.5 right now at the age of 27.
I like him
to the 25-26 season.
Yeah.
Jonathan Drouin has one more year after this, and then he's an unlimited. But he's on IR right now. No one's going to want to touch that. Dvorak's at 4.5, almost 4.5, and he's up through 24-25. just there are so many numbers here. Nick Suzuki
So,
is at 7.9 all the
yeah,
way.
don't even
2030.
don't even start that conversation with me about Nick Suzuki. And this is with all due respect. You and I would not sign on the dotted line if we were offered that contract. But what has Nick Suzuki done to deserve a contract like that? What did the Canadians do last year? Yeah, they caught lightning in a bottle. I've said this all the time. But this team was not good. But they did catch everything going. And right now, they were 3 wins away, right, from winning the Cup last season. They're dead last, beginning of the week, dead last.
Yeah.
In the NHL, dead last. So what you do, all those names you mentioned, all the money tied up, you take about 5. You take about 5. Not saying you try to get rid of everybody else, but you take 5 that you think will be in Montreal for an extended amount of time that you can rebuild the team around.
Yeah.
For example, Nick Suzuki, you can't. No one's going to take that contract.
That is dead weight walking until 2030.
Right.
And I mean, just to clarify, both Anderson and Gallagher are there until 27 when they're UFAs.
Right. So you have pick 5. And I've said this time and time again about Carey Price. I said this 2-3 years ago, even before this run they did last year against Tampa and against the rest of the East. He was not going to finish up his contract. I thought he was going to go to Seattle. I thought that he was going to be the goaltender for the Kraken, but he's injured. He's been struggling mentally.
Allen's injured. They're both on. I mean, Carey Price is on long term at 10.5.
I know, John.
Jake
and then
Allen is injured, and he's just under 3, which means that you've got Primo, Montembeault, and McNiven right now as your 3 goalies.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I think you're hamstrung in such a way that no one's going to want to touch Carey Price at 10.5. No one's going to want to touch Shea Weber, who's on long term at 7.85.
No
one's going to want to touch Joel Armia maybe at 3.4.
It's a risk. They're injured. They're old. It's a risk.
No one's going to touch it. You've got so much dead weight on either IR or long-term IR. You're hamstrung. You are screwed.
Yeah. Good luck.
Screwed.
As they say, John, bon chance.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And okay, so I'll give you my hockey story quickly.
Okay.
Very cool out of Vancouver. Emily Castonguay, assistant general manager. And for those that haven't read the story, it's on NHL.com, and she's been in the game forever. The fact that she is now an assistant GM in Vancouver. Her sister died 10 years ago during the last conversation they had. And this was in the French portion of the press conference. It came out. She told me one day that I was going to manage the Vancouver Canucks. So when the Canucks called, it was pretty emotional for me. I felt like the universe was trying to bring me here. So as an agent, she's represented players, Lafreniere, Cedric Paquette, Antoine Roussel, represented players in the A, and she's also represented Marie-Philippe Poulin. So great for the Canucks to take this step. So I love this. Second woman to be an AGM in the NHL history, joining Angela Gorgon, who held the position for the Mighty Ducks in 96-97. So great, very cool stuff from the Canucks hiring Emily Castonguay to be alongside Jim Rutherford.
It's amazing and incredible how far women have come and how far they will continue to go. We wouldn't even discuss any of this. Nobody would be in the conversation about this years ago. Good on them. They deserve just as much of a shot as any man does. Two other things, tennis and baseball. Nick Kyrgios and Thanasi Kokkinakis.
Okay.
John, they're taking the Aussie Open by storm. It is so fun to see this. First of all, Nick Kyrgios, one of my favorite players to watch. I love what he does off the court, love what he does on the court. If he kind of reminds me of a John Daly, has all the talent in the world to win major after major after major after major, but he just does not put the body and the mind to where it needs to be. And he's admitted that. He said, look, I just don't have it. But the fact that he's doing what he's doing with his partner at the Aussie Open, I absolutely, absolutely love it. And it takes all the nonsense away that we dealt with Novak for days leading up to this event.
Months, years with Novak. I know. It's fresh to see those kinds of things.
Yeah.
You look at Nick Kyrgios and you're just waiting for the next nutty, though.
I know.
And it's someone with as much talent as he has. You're waiting for that next nutty, and then all of this emotional and athletic capital that he builds up into a certain point. I'll root for Nick Kyrgios, and then So
Yeah, I know.
it's build, and then you just wait for the fall.
He's the bad boy of tennis, and he said it was interesting when Novak was still in Australia
Yeah.
when the discussion was, "What do you think of him staying and playing?" He said basically, if he stays, I don't want to play him because he's going to be ticked, and if you play him when he's angry, then you're pretty much done. Now, he saved, I think, himself from going on about what he actually thought of Novak Djokovic, right? Because
Yeah,
I was waiting for Nick Kyrgios to say something. But anyway, I'm with you. Okay, last one. We got a few minutes.
sure.
Baseball Hall of Fame. Two names.
Yeah.
Should they get in?
No,
Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens.
no. I knew exactly where you were going.
I
The
know, but
answer
okay,
is
go. Okay, tell me,
no.
convince me because I'm leaning back toward,
Why?
I'm leaning more on the fence now to get him in.
Why?
Because everybody was doing it. Barry Bonds has never been found guilty. He's never been banned by baseball. He's never been. I'm just saying. I'm trying to
Why
lean
would
on.
MLB pull that trigger though? That
Pardon?
they would not, especially in the atmosphere, because then
No, of course not.
if you were to go
Of course,
into some kind of discovery phase,
yeah,
then everyone would be exposed for whatever violations they had down the line. It's
yeah.
just
Fair enough. And
the thing that gets me about Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens both.
yeah. By the way, they're
Uh-huh.
trending early this week.
Uh-huh.
They're trending close to 70, 75%, and you need 75% to get in.
Yeah. Right.
Carry on.
Right. But you look at those two. Had they not gone down the road that they allegedly probably went down, I think they would have gotten in on their own merit anyway because of what they were doing in the game to that point.
Fair enough.
You,
Agreed.
you compare the two of them, I mean, compare them to Ken Griffey Jr. Think what
Yep.
Junior's numbers would have been if he were healthy for
Right.
his entire career. I think we lost 2.5 full seasons
Yeah.
of Junior because of health problems.
In my mind, one of the greatest, if not the best all-round baseball player.
Think of the numbers that he could have had if he was healthy for an entire career,
Yeah.
and extrapolate the numbers that you could have had with Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens had they not gone down the road, allegedly, probably, that they did, that has caused this much furor and caused folks to not want them to be a part of the Cooperstown Reindeer game. For me, yes, I know that the preponderance of the evidence is that a lot of folks got the numbers that they did because they were doing things that were naughty, not necessarily a surprise. But when you flaunt it in the open as much as you do, all you have to do is look at the physical attributes of what Barry Bonds became as an individual, what Roger
Right.
Clemens became as
They
someone
just
north of 40
yeah.
and had the recuperative powers that he had. And gee, I wonder how that happened. It's just I can't do
It's
it.
a
I honestly can't do it for can't I would not have done it for Sosa McGuire, would not have done it for Pete Rose, would not have done it for these two either. I just would not have done it.
I think Pete Rose, well, yeah, Pete Rose, same kind of thing, gambling,
He was an
banned from
awful
baseball.
better on the sport on his own team.
Oh, I know. I wouldn't get him in either. And I'm not saying I'm not completely on board with Bonds and Clemens getting in, but I do think that in the era that they played in, everybody was doing it. It just so happened that they did quite a bit of it and their numbers increased. So everybody focused more on them than they would. Say Barry Bonds hit 15 home runs when he was 40. Nobody would care. Say he bulked up. No, nobody would care that he hit 15. He's trying, but it's not working. But the fact that he hit 60 and 65 and 70, and Clemens strikes out, 300 when he's 40 years old, something like that, and he wins 2020.
You skew the numbers of rationality here.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at Henry Aaron, look at Henry Aaron's numbers the last 3 years of his career, 74, 75, and 76. And I know we're up against it.
Yeah.
Last year in Atlanta, 1974, 20 and 69. First year in Milwaukee, 75, it was 12 and 60, and he was mainly a DH. Last year in baseball at the age of 42 and 76, he played 85 games and was 10 and 35 and he didn't bat 268, 234, 229 in his last 3 years. I think that's what we're accustomed to when it comes to athletes on the fade. It was something like Aaron, not what we saw from Bonds and Clemens.
Everybody loves to hate Barry and Roger. So one way or another, this discussion will continue. by the time the week is done, whether they get in or whether they do not. Thanks, pal. Always fun. North South, another edition, all done. Fired Up Network. We will talk to you next time.